Hello, everybody. This is TheLisol with Stero for State of SWGoH, episode 3, where we each talk about 3 topics, and yeah, that's about it. I had 3 topics today that kind of melt together. So I'm just gonna start with something I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is, as a consequence of the Lightspeed bundles, I have 34 or 36 characters. I think it's 36 with legendaries. I don't have 34 without the legendaries that are not G13. My roster has gone from being about half G13 to, what is it? 90-ish percent? It's probably more like 80 to 85% G13. And this kind of worries me a little bit. Now we knew that the meta was going to be moving towards G13 and engagement with relics. I mean, they so much as came out with that, 2 or 3 years ago with the road ahead, where they wanted more people to engage with relics or whatever, and that was what the game was going to be. But I wasn't expecting it to come along so quickly. I wanted to know, how many of these Lightspeed bundles did you get, and how much of your roster did it change? Like, did you get the Night Sisters and the Geos and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of them. I mean, I was very intentional, especially after the first ones, to make sure that because I have like a budget per month, and I made sure to what was really helpful was the Apple gift cards.
Oh,
the month prior, so I spent my budget on those, and then that was saved up essentially,
so
that I could go ahead and
yeah. So you basically
all the ones I
doubled your
needed.
budget later.
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually got the crystals or whatever it was out of buying the Apple gift cards. That wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the shard shop currency was really good. That's
that
what
was
funded
all the
my
JKA and Darth Vader shards and all of that.
Yeah, that's what funded a lot of my, how I was able to do the First Order Special Forces TIE pilot testing.
Okay, well,
was because I had so much.
We're going to get to that because that's something I want to talk about too with the shard shop currency.
But a lot of my roster benefited from it, so I definitely have way more relics than I would have. Night Sisters, Ewoks, Geos, were not on my list to relic.
Yeah, but they're teams you probably would want to eventually, but they're kind of way low priority kind of deal.
Yeah, Night Sisters are good, but so far they've been finicky for me. I don't really know how to use them best yet.
They're also fine if just one of them is relicked, is another thing about Night Sisters. So for me, that was a pack I wanted, but didn't really transform a whole lot. The Night Sisters still work the same. They're just a little tankier.
Yeah.
And I already had
I was more thinking for the
assault battle.
Assault battle, yeah.
With that bundle, were you able to beat tier 2?
I don't think I did. I get through tier 2? I don't think I did. Because I brought my DACA
to 7
up to R5 so far, but
mine was R4 for a very long time. So
also I didn't have enough Zetas, so I was running off of 2 Zetas at that point.
Area.
Yeah, DACA didn't have her Zeta.
What did your GP balloon to after you got the Lightspeed bundles? You're over 8 million at this point, right?
No, I'm 7.1.
7.1. Okay.
Yeah. It actually didn't do that much. It was less than $1 million.
It was less than $1 million.
maybe 600,000. Well, because my Ewoks were already mostly G12. My Night Sisters was probably the biggest boost. My Geonosians were already all G12.
That's not a huge leap. A lot of mine went from 11 to relics.
Well, but the 12 to 13 is what really sold me, because that's
a ton of Kairos.
It's a ton of Kairos. It's a ton of just those Gear 12 materials that you accrue over time. But it's I don't want to take a month off of my current farm to dedicate to relicking one of these squads.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was what really drove me to
So
it.
how many G13s do you have at this point then? You've got to be in the 100-ish range, 125 maybe?
Let me pull up SWGoH. I have 117.
117. Yeah. So you are a couple of Lightspeed bundles away from having a 75% G13 roster. You started what, 2 years ago? 2.5? Something like that?
Yeah, I think it was a little over 2 years ago.
This is the meta now. It is full G13. Like up until about a year or two ago, and this is kind of what worried me about this, was that G11 was viable for a lot of characters. Not damage dealers, not tanks, but support characters, healers, random attackers. It didn't really matter. You could have at gear 11. And gear 11 it wasn't easy to get to, generally speaking, but it was something you could get a character to G11 every week, every other week, give or take, if you focused on it, as long as they didn't have 1,000 Carbantes or 1,000,000 Kairos. But now it's on even my alt account, which is at 7.8 million. I'm in the 125-ish G13 range. And I found that basically none of my teams that aren't fully G13 are useless. And this is in Kyber 3, Kyber 4, where half the players don't even participate. But then I run out of teams very quickly there. And it's entirely a function of the relics. And I don't know if I really if I like that much. It's going to make all of this old core gear, all of this stuff just fodder for crunching down into relic scrap. And there's no variety anymore in rosters. Everybody has all the same relics. Everything, it's just a matter of modding and what relic level you bring them to.
Yeah, but I think the relic levels, they do make a pretty big difference. And where they are really pushing that is in like territory battles with the platoons. They start pushing people towards relics. And also there's certain things like attackers really want relic 8. Yeah. Tanks really, really want relic 9. And those are not easy to get to. Like relic 9, I can relic 9 somebody like once every other month.
Yeah, I'm probably a little faster than that, but not much faster than that myself. That is one.
I mean, it's mostly the droid brains.
Yeah, and that is one of the things. You actually had a really good segue there into the guild priorities because of this. It feels to me like, as much as I dislike the fact that our rosters are going to be basically all G13 or mostly G13, and anything useful will be, it kind of makes guild stuff easier to prioritize and easier to focus on stuff you otherwise wouldn't. And we were speaking before we started recording this, how the example I gave was, well, if you've already got a G13 Bodhi, what's the big deal taking it to R7? And then also on the same note, like my guild, we're pretty casual. We basically get all of our stars 30-ish in TB from deploys and platoons. We're actually actively starting to work on the Zepho mission because it just makes sense to at this point now. A lot of people in our guild, enough to actually think about it, and we don't have forced farms and we don't tell anybody to do anything, have a developed enough cal and seer that it's worth telling people, like, hey, we really want to work on this to get this mission done to unlock Zepho. Something we probably wouldn't, I'm pretty sure we wrote off a year ago. We're like, nah, we're never going to do that, whatever. No, don't even think about it. Has this Has any of this kind of changed your guild's priorities? Like, do you see this changing people's priorities as far as gearing stuff for guilds as opposed to gearing stuff for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, especially once you get into Kyber, just in general, you're not, there's not as much pressure to climb in like GAC.
Yeah.
And so it starts getting easier to prioritize territory wars, territory battles, raid characters, just as a consequence of you not like feeling the pressure to reach that next tier to get those extra daily crystals. Because like, once you're in Kyber, you're getting 200 plus a day, and it's like that. You can just
the difference between
stop worrying about
4 is not that much.
Yes. Yep. So, and it's like most people are never going to get into Kyber 1. It's very, very hard to do unless you're like, you've got a fully decked out roster and you're also you basically have to have all your ducks in a row. You got to be on top of your Datacrons. You got to be on top of the latest characters and whatever the meta is. And you also have to be very good at the game.
I spent a couple of weeks in K1 and it was terrible. I had the worst season I've ever had last season, and it was in Kyber 1, and I'm very glad I got slammed back down into Kyber 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's like my guild, for example, what we do is we have like a list of platoon characters, and it's like right now we're just at the point where it's like everybody pick one and then check it off the list.
Basically what we do.
And for me, it was easy. I was like, at the time I was like, oh, yeah, I have Ben Solo at R5 and we do him at R6. Easy, done. Other people took some more painful ones like Tebow to R7,
but we got most of the painful ones were taken by the other officers and I, but me and another officer, we each have an alt in the guild, and they take the super painful ones. Like I got an R6 POW and an R7 Bodhi on my alt. I think I have like an R6 Wedge, that kind of stuff. So, I actually think getting better choosing these platoon characters, though, it can also be in service of your solo play. Like honestly, R6 POW, that accounts Mon Mothma team is pretty sweet, and it is a team that I use pretty frequently. It got a hold for me on defense today and it was Mon Mothma, POW, and Kyle Katarn. So, these things are not, you're not throwing resources down the toilet unless you're doing Bodhi. But, it makes it's nice to be able to look at it and be like, okay, so I've got this crap tune at R3 because it's a requirement. My guild needs it at R7, or because I got it from a Lightspeed bundle. My guild needs it at R7 for a platoon. Fine, I'll do it. And I think that's a positive consequence of all of this shift towards the G13 plus meta.
Yeah.
You also brought up, which is going to be my next topic, the engagement with R9. My guild doesn't do great in TB or TW. Roughly 500 record. We'll usually win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2, that kind of deal. Sometimes we'll go on a streak and lose 3 in a row. Sometimes we'll go on a streak and win 3 in a row. So, we're doing okay in TW, and we're in that 450 million range. So pretty much as long as we get like 40 plus people joining, we'll hit the top crate. I can do an R9 about once every month and a half to 2 months, and you said you're about 2 months on them. I still only have a half dozen R9s. I might not even have a half dozen. I got JML, I got Leia, I got Chrysanthemum, and then Adrad, Malik, and Darth Revan. So that is a half dozen. It's very cost prohibitive. And they're
they're very expensive.
And with with this shift in the meta towards these fully or mostly full G13 rosters, TB, we're gonna start crushing through stars in TB as a community. Like the high end guilds are gonna start getting a ton of stars. The middle of the road guilds like mine, we jumped from 27 to 30 a couple weeks ago. Like just straight up jumped 3 stars. It was also to do with booting some slackers, but it was a big jump. And that means that R9 is going to be something that needs to be engaged with more, because you're going to need them for the combat missions, and you're going to need them for the platoons. And isn't it phase 5 and 6 are both R9?
You start at 5,
Yeah.
so 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so both of them would be 9, I think.
What can they do to open up the spigot on R9? Especially if, and I know this is dirty, foul language around here in the community, especially if R10 is coming. I don't know when. It could be tomorrow, doubtful. But in the next year or two is completely reasonable to expect. They're going to have to turn that spigot on somehow, and what can they do?
I mean, honestly, they could... I mean, people have been asking for a long time. People have been theorizing for a long time about Territory Wars rework. And so I'm thinking they might essentially shoehorn that in. Because like at the same time they reworked raids, and by rework I mean they came out with the crate raid, which was, for all intents and purposes, that was a raid rework. Because the currencies all got reworked.
Oh yeah.
Our entire system of generating gear and relic materials was completely changed. So I think they'll maybe take a similar path and either align R10 with a new release of TW, and in the new release they could just up the rewards, up the amount of droid brains you get, and then add a restrictive amount of R10 material.
That's fair enough. But the droid brains aren't the only limiting factor for R9.
I mean, Gerda keypads suck.
Gerda keypads suck less than impulse detectors, in my opinion. Gerda keypads...
Really? But they're a lot cheaper. The impulse detectors are a lot cheaper if you buy them with the Mark III.
They are. But for like conversion, because I can just farm... In a week, I can farm 20 Gerda keypads very easily. If I just... Instead of buying the purple pieces with my ship energy, I get the fusion furnaces. So Gerda keypads are not a problem, but the impulse detectors, if I want to spend energy to make those, I'm taking away from my Cairo farm. Which I guess, if my entire roster is G13, will be less important. I could probably get most of the Kairos I need if I'm basically just taking one character to G13 as I get it to 7 stars every time, which is what the future will be if I can keep up, or if I can catch up with what I'm doing. Then I guess that'd be something I can do. But there's also the Zinbittle cards, because it requires 20 Zinbittle cards to go from 7 to 8, and then 20 to go from 8 to 9. And does it take 20 impulse detectors to go from 7 to 8, and then 20 to go from 8 to 9? So you're looking at
yes.
So you're looking at 60 of those high-end relic mats to go from 8 to 9. So are we gonna?
Yeah, I mean,
be looking at
they're
80 of
fairly
those
cheap
to go up to. Zinbittle cards are way less of a problem than impulse detectors or Gerda keypads.
But yeah, they would be a new crunch, especially if they're required for Relic 10. But that's the thing. I mean, you if you alleviate one bottleneck, you have to create another.
Yeah, I just don't. My worry is that even though I'm sure at some point they'll turn the spigot on the droid brains. That's still ludicrously expensive. Basically, to take a character to R10, you could take 2 characters to R8 from 7. Or from 7, to take one from 7 to 10, you could take a character to 9 and another character to 8. for the cost of going from 9 to 10. And that,
I think they'll have to do something to make 10 worth it.
do you think maybe they'll take a rhodium heat sinks off of it, since they took bronziums and CCBs off of 8 and 9?
Yeah, I don't think those are like, those haven't been a crunch for a long time. So
or
I
is
think
it chromium transistors? Is that the one after bronzium? That's even less of a crunch. I have
chromium transistors.
784,000 of those.
But I think they would take off the iridium heatsink too, just because they're so easy to farm and they were required for.
Is that the last piece required for an R5? You don't need electriums to go from 4 to 5, right? You just need them from 5 to 6. That would make, actually, I'm talking myself into this now, because that would make R5 would effectively be free from a I'm trying to take something else to R10 perspective. So if you took something from G13 to R5, it would not affect your R9 to R10 farm at all. And taking, aside from signal data, that's a whole nother
that's
a whole nother thing. I have a very different view on signal data than a lot of people do. I never ever run out of signal data. I don't understand how these people are, and I routinely take characters to high relic levels. I take a character to G13 and relic 3 or 5 every week. Like, I don't understand this signal data crunch that everybody is talking about. Like, I love the Cantina farms because I don't have to worry about signal data. I do most of my almost all of my Cantina energy goes into the signal farms, but it's not something I've ever had to worry about. So, but that's a whole nother story. So, if they ease this crunch, are you going to engage with R9 more? Do you have a lot of R8s? Because I feel like you missed the C-Pit Gold Rush on Aero Magnifiers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of. Wait, how can I sort by?
It's just G13, and then in alphabetical order, it's really lame.
Okay, well, so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 R8s and 1 R9.
Oh wow!
I've got a lot of R7s, but
my alt account, which is similar to yours in size, any like major character I get, taking it to R8 is like default. But I did not miss the C-Pit Gold Rush on that account, so I got.
Yeah, I mean, Aero Magnifiers haven't been my issue. It's just been I haven't wanted to take them to R8 because I'm blazing ahead as fast as possible on my other farms.
Okay.
Like, especially my Galactic Legend requirements. I'm trying to do that as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So I'm not taking characters to relics that I don't absolutely need them at. Like, unless it changes the matchup for me, I don't spend the resource. Is how I look at it. Eventually I'd like to, but
I played that game for a long time, and it's helpful when you're catching up on just journey guide stuff, like getting it is. I feel like I don't know. There's trade-offs there in either going for all of the journey guide stuff as quickly as you can, which if you wanted to go through the entire journey guide, it'd probably take, if you went through it just one thing after another, it'd probably take you several years.
Oh yeah, I mean it's there's a plan there, and it's not just straight up through the whole journey guide. Like, Afra is going to be 100% skipped unless an LSB comes out.
Afra is her requirements are in the 34 or whatever that I don't have at G13, and hers and Bo-Katan's requirements are my next G13s that I'm working on. I'm not even taking them up to Relic 5 for the events. I'm just taking them to G13 so that when I eventually get to them, they're already there and I don't have to worry about it. Because I still have Vader to get and all of that. I feel like we've steered way off course, but we did get touch on the points that I wanted to. So let's get into what you wanted to talk about. Let's get us started.
So I think, I guess a good segue here is there, I had a question, which was, is there a best farming path anymore? And I've seen a lot of creators be like, no, there's not anymore.
I have a lot to say about that, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'll chime in afterwards.
So with the light speed bundles, I think, I don't know. So like your ideal farming path depends on what cohort you're in terms of like, if you bought light speed bundles, which ones you bought will determine your farming path. And I think there is an ideal farming path for those. If you're just starting out and you're not buying any of this stuff, I mean, you can go in so many different directions because there's like assault battles for so many factions. There's GLs for so many factions. There's journey guides for like basically any which way you go, there are good things that can get you good value. And of course, like somebody like Cap and Egnards would say, oh, you just go Jabba. And yeah, sure, that gives you a return on investment. But really, you could go almost anywhere and still get some good absolutely. ROI.
Yeah.
So,
okay, I agree with you. And I don't think there's even going to be a but in there. Lightspeed bundles, if you buy them, definitely affect how you're going to do your farms. Obviously, if you buy the Kylo Ren and Rey bundles, you want to get those first because they're there. They're just there for the taking. But I think there's no specific farming path that is the best path. But I actually did a roster review for somebody this morning on my stream, and one of the viewers said, he's like, dude, I can't even tell people that are newish to the game. This guy was level 79. Can't even tell him what to do with the game now because I'm just so far removed from it. And he's a player similar level to me, 11-ish million, Kyber 2, Kyber 1 kind of player. But you can't tell somebody like that any specifics, but there is, if you have to make the plan. And you have to take all of these disparate parts of the game, prioritize them, and then sit down with your pen and paper and decide what it is you want to accomplish and how you want to accomplish it. And if you don't know, there is, to me, at least one obvious way to go about it. You need a fleet, you need a GL, and you need 2 or 3 of the major solo journey characters. And then you get that, then you need the next fleet, then you need the next GL, and then you need 2 or 3 major journey characters. And by major journey characters, I mean GI, Starkiller, Bo-Katan, Aphra.
I mean, Revens are good journey characters. Those will get you assault battles, either one.
And then also to build out a couple of B teams as you go. And so then you refine that a little bit further because that's just a general skeleton. There's 2 routes you can go, in my opinion, that are the best routes. You want immediate return on your investment, or do you want eventual ease of farming? If you want immediate return on investment, you go SLKR, Starkiller, and Executor. Or Executor, SLKR, Starkiller. If you want eventual ease for farming to make the rest of your life easier as you go either JML, Jabba, or Leia first, Profundity, and then whatever journey guide characters you want to do. I would do GI just because it would help get you into a big guild. So there is no like one way to do it anymore, and there never really was. But if you're min-maxing, there are specific routes you can take that will make your life easier, as opposed to just doing whatever you want. And I think that is a strength to the game now, though, that there is no one way to do it. And if you wanted to, if I were to start a new account tomorrow, God forbid, I would never want to do yet another account. I could go, hey, I want to do Lord Vader first. And
That's what my alt account
and
is doing.
Afra immediately after that. And then after that, I'll do Bo-Katan. And, you know, you might not have the best results as far as like crystal income goes or anything, but you'll have a viable roster. And once you get those first few building blocks, you're climbing your ass straight to Erodium. Like you'll have success with it. And
I mean, not to mention that Vader is, I think he's Empire and Sith. So that's, I mean, that's 2 assault battles, at least CT2. Probably not 3-star, but you could do them every time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not horrible value. It's just like nothing's horrible value.
And they've made, with the raids, they've made getting a GL. When GLs were new, I was probably 3-4 million GP. Probably only had a half dozen G13 characters. And I saw the requirements for SLKR and Ray, and I crap my pants. I was like, I'm never going to get one of these things. That's going to take me forever. Now it's so accessible. Any GL, any meta fleet, if you focus on it and you're in a guild that gets you, they don't even have to be really good rewards. As long as everybody in your guild participates and you're at like 200 plus million, you're going to get enough income to get any GL once you have all the characters unlocked and 7-starred in 15, 16 weeks. Any meta fleet in 10. Anything like Afra, Bo-Katan, JKCK, Starkiller in 5. Like it's crazy accessible for anybody, and that's really nice. And that's part of what makes it that there is no like best farming route anymore, because you can just get whatever you want. If I wanted to get all of those the wintertime journey guide characters right away, I could very easily and have a roster that works. I'd have a half dozen really good teams and another half dozen teams that were not so good but are still usable, you know? And it's really nice.
Yep. I agree with that sentiment of like fleet GL.
Yeah.
And then
you got
journey guide.
You gotta stabilize your crystal income is what you gotta do.
I think the best farming plan, I think to kind of like round this out, the best farming plan is a farming plan. That's the only thing that's not a good farming plan, is if you don't have a plan at all. So if you're lacking a plan, go get a roster review.
And my suggestion is, when making a plan, you have a 6-month plan, a 12-month plan, and an 18-month plan. And the 6-month plan, you start and don't deviate from. And once you hit the end of that 6-month plan, you look at your 12 and 18-month plan and rejigger them if you have to, or just go right into them. And then you just always have those rolling plans. You always have an eye towards the future, because it allows you to farm in a kind of cascading way where you're doing relic levels and G13s and G12s and G11s, and then getting people up to 7-star. So you're able to do all of these things concurrently. And if you have a plan, you can really, really climb with your roster very easily, very quickly.
Yeah. All right, and I guess no good segue here, but Datacrons have been just so freaking overpowered. And I've been making tons of videos on specifically the First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot Cron. I don't know.
Can I say
like,
one thing? I love the thumbnail for your First Order versus Padme Cron video. I love that thumbnail.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean that's honestly the toughest battles are against really optimized slicker crons, where they just like they do. It's basically if they have an R9, because like my SLKR is an R8. If they have an R9 SLKR, it's pretty dicey.
You're doing mirrors
if they're
with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Squad Arena is all SLKR and first order TIE Pilot Cron.
Okay.
It's just all there is. But it's been like these Datacrons have been pretty crazy. And it's interesting though, because the Datacrons are like wildly overpowered. But First Order is like the most accessible faction in the game outside of like Jedi.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people can access these. And I played my first round in Grand Arena against a guy who had no Datacrons. Zero, none at all, like over 10 million account, and I stomped the guy.
Same. 11 million account, Kyber 2, opened up his defense, saw one Datacron. I was like, why even, like, I'm gonna smash this guy. Just because I have Datacrons.
By the way, Arnold did some testing and was like, oh, Special Forces TIE Pilot Cron doesn't seem very good. He like did some defensive testing. But he didn't have the correct level 6. He didn't have the long stuff. He had the 400% offense, minus 50% defense.
Okay, so that's what I have on my SLKR Cron. I should re-roll that then?
Yeah, that is good for the SLKR Cron because you want basically to just do one swipe and take out the whole team. But if you're going on defense, you generally don't, like, specifically with the Special Forces TIE Pilot Cron, it has crazy ramping max health and protection.
So the defense is not really...
So you don't want to lose your defense. Yeah, well, because you don't care about the offense as much, because you have ramping offense in there as well as you stun people and more crits you get. It's all about endurance. So that team, you want to have the long level 6, because what it does is every time SLKR takes a turn, everybody loses 1% turn meter, thus they gain 10% health and protection max. And so the more turns SLKR takes, the beefier and beefier your team gets. And the only team that I've had struggles against are an SLKR Cron like yours, where they have all the offense. I just have to make sure that essentially what I do first is, since I can ignore taunt, I just go for Sith Trooper generally first, so he doesn't get bonus turns. I poke him. They generally poke my Kylo Ren on mask and one-shot him. And then I go again, and I get a bonus turn. You get a bonus turn if you kill a stunned enemy.
Okay.
With the First Order.
That's the Special
Forces Crown.
That is the level 9, right?
That's the level 9. Yep. So SLKR will take a bonus turn
here. Because I'm not familiar. I have the SLKR one, but I have yet to roll a Special Forces TIE Pilot.
Yeah, so what I do, so he takes a turn. Generally, I go first because mine's modded really fast. So that's 10% health protection. Mm-hmm. They take a turn, somebody dies. I kill the guy who is stunned. So that's 20% because I've taken a second turn. I kill the guy who's stunned, take a bonus turn, that's 30% health and protection. And then after that, everybody's health and protection is enough to withstand even the increased damage from SLKR's Cron. Right. And specifically in 3v3, the SLKR Cron doesn't work nearly as well because there's just less relics to boost them up.
Yeah.
Because you only have 2 other characters. I put SLKR, Special Forces TIE Pilot, and crew
on defense.
Yep. Against so this guy had, I'm just looking this up quick so I don't misquote this here. But this guy he put on defense Jabba and C and Rey. Rey was on the back wall.
Are you fighting guys that have 7 HGLs pretty much every time?
Yes. Okay. Yep. So the GLs that he had to work with on offense were JMK, JML.
Both should easily beat an SLKR.
Leia, and SLKR.
Oh. He wasn't even...
He dropped...
Oh my goodness.
He dropped 3 battles against my SLKR Cron. Or my SLKR with the first can
presume...
And 1 battle against the Holdocron, which was on my other wall. And then he gave up. He was... So I'm guessing what happened was he used all 4 of his GLs and then was like, nope. I'm done.
Oh, man. Good for you. That's awesome. You got to imagine he used all 4 of his GLs, or at least used 2 against the SLKR. And then maybe tried like a JKR or something against it. But in threes, SLKR is a menace. He's just hard. I have to play efficiency just because I'm. It's not, the discrepancies aren't as big in Kyber 2, Kyber 1, but I'm still punching up against a lot of these people, so I still have to kind of play efficiency. Thankfully, 3v3 is the lazy season, so I put more GLs on defense, and sometimes it discourages people from attacking at all. If there's more GLs up front, they're like, it's 3v3, I don't want to mess with this today. But that's way off topic. So you've been using the Special Forces TIE Pilot Omicron on defense. And it's...
Well, so yeah, I put it on defense because I just wanted to see how it do. I was like,
let them figure it out.
In 3v3 especially, this would be really good on defense because you don't have as many, like if you're a JMK, you don't have your extra 2 people to call an assist and do a ton of damage to blitz down SLKR.
Right.
Plus, SLKR is stacking health and offense, or health and protection and offense every time he takes a turn.
He's also doing his siphon, so he's doubling up on his ramping.
Yep. So it's very, very difficult. Even you got Cat, you insta kill crew, and then you're stuck because SLKR has already taken several turns. And a big thing is,
even though you can ignore taunt, you still can't kill the Special Forces TIE Pilot because SLKR is still alive.
Yep, it's the whole Ben Ray dynamic, but better. And then so you have to focus SLKR, and you're probably, I don't know what you bring in. Maybe you try to bring in Ahsoka and like double Ahsoka to try to blitz him down. But because you have less people to like help you out, you're going to be taking less turns.
Takes forever to get to, yeah.
Yeah, and then and he can ignore taunt.
Are you sure you even want to publish this? Do you want to let anybody know about this? Or
well, yeah, I'd like to see them get through it. Like, I'd like to see someone get through it without a Padme-cron. Like, I just feel like because JML gets wrecked because SLKR just ignores taunt, so he just goes around you, and like you bring in Revan and Hoda or Revan and Jedi Knight Luke, and he'll just go for one of them, and then you're dead. So it's like, and he's like, one of the big things is when you hit a first order ally with advantage, you get stunned, which can't be evaded.
Is that in the TIE Pilot or the TIE Pilot tier? Or is that in the level 6? If you hit one with advantage, you get stunned. It's got to be in the TIE Pilot one.
So yeah, and also as well, first order allies have advantage. They ignore taunt, which is SLKR gives you advantage every single time unless you have buff immunity.
So that's really awesome.
Which can't be resisted. It can't be resisted, the stun.
Oof.
So that means whenever like you say Ahsoka attacks SLKR, you're trying to blitz him down, he has advantage, then you're dead. Like you're stunned.
Right. And with Ahsoka, well,
she can dispel. So she's really good.
Dispelling the.
I think she dispels first.
Yeah, how's that work in the stack? I don't remember, but so it's possible that it stuns Ahsoka. It's also possible that it doesn't. But SLKR is such a great offensive tool because it beats like most things.
In 5s, I'm going to use them on offense exclusively because you can 2-man anything.
I wanted to ask you about that because I watched that video.
Special Forces TIE Pilot.
That you put out. Those 2-man SLKR Special Forces TIE Pilot kills were impressive.
Yeah, because you're basically pulling the Jyn Radis cheese, but with SLKR.
Yeah. And the SLKR is stacking health and protection, right? So he's making himself more difficult to kill.
And stacking offense.
Jesus Christ.
And siphoning. It's just a nightmare.
Do you think, and I don't know if this is a segue or not, but in our notes earlier, you want to talk about the power creep in that? Do you think this is the new level of Datacrons? Or do you think this is kind of like a peak and they're going to taper off a little bit and kind of sit somewhere a little bit below this, or do you think they're going to keep going up, or is this the plateau?
No, I think this is. So what I think they're doing is pushing people to engage with Datacrons, which really there's no excuse not to engage on some level. You can get a couple level 9s just by doing your
my
conquest
alt.
stuff.
I barely do conquest, and I still get a handful of really good Datacrons, 1 or 2 level 9s, and a bunch of 6s and a bunch of 3s. Like there's no reason not
it's
to.
not. Yeah, so I think you need to engage with them, and that's what they want you to do is engage with the Datacrons. That's why they're so accessible with First Order and Galactic Republic, because JMK is also a very popular GL.
And that Padme crown on JMK is pretty nasty.
But what I'm thinking is, like, if you see an SLKR on defense, like, so in 5v5, it's the SLKR cron, in 3v3, it's the Special Forces TIE Pilot. And the Padme one works for both.
Right.
The Padme one, like somebody came in my comments being like, "Oh, the Padme one's better," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, JMK is just better than SLKR. That's just the way it is. The Padme cron makes some protection disruption on random people like that. That's rough. So it's obviously better, but what I think it is that they're just going to take each other out.
Yes.
If you have those, then if you're like, oh, you see this slicker cron on defense, well, you're just going to bring in your JMK for a guaranteed win.
Right.
And if you see JMK on defense, you're going to bring in your Special Forces TIE Pilot.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much a guaranteed win. If you watch my testing, it's like it takes a little bit, but you're never really in trouble.
Would you consider bringing, with your duo, would you consider bringing either Watt or Armorer with it?
You could, if you have them relict. The stuff still works. I mean, they won't get the.
But
actually, they will get the ramping. Well, no, because only First Order allies get the.
But I'm saying Armorer for the Beskar on SLKR, because then you have him. He's auto countering. I can't remember what the other abilities it gives are, but it's pretty nice to have that. So
you could do that. You could definitely do that.
You think it might help increase the win rate on something like that, or you'd probably end up losing a few more banners that way. But
so this is part of it. Is the level 6 the good level 6? Whenever a First Order ally scores a critical hit, the leader gains 10% off at stacking max 200% until the end of the encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So the more First Order allies you have giving you critical hits, the better. But that's not necessarily going to be too much of a problem because First Order TIE Pilot is not going to die.
Right.
Because he can't die, so he can just keep getting critical hits unless he gets stun locked. So I could see that, like, it would still work. Everything would still work. Yeah, I mean, most stuff in the crown would still work, so that's definitely an option, and you could do that if you wanted to be safe. But I would find, like, you got Armorer and Watt. Yeah, I mean, if you got Armorer and Watt, I mean, if you have C, you're gonna want to use it there.
Yeah, I generally use Watt with C. Armorer I only recently took up to Relic 3, so I'm trying to find a spot for her. So that's kind of selfishly why I'm asking, because I feel like Armorer's the Beskar armor is really good, and it's really good for SLKR. And it doesn't appear as though she would break the Kron, but it also doesn't really seem like adding her is going to make a demonstrable difference. So
probably not, unless you wanted to, like, for example, undersize. So this is the one thing where it's like, if you go against a Padme Kron JMK team in 5s, you could, and you wanted to undersize it, you could bring in see, but you need they ignore taunt anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think the Padme Kron allows you to ignore taunt. I don't know, you just have to, like, luck out and hope your armor survives long enough to just pass over however many stacks she has.
You might be better off just bringing a full First Order team in general.
Yeah, because that's what I would do is just bring a full
because
First
that'll
Order
help your ramping go a little bit faster.
That'll help your ramping. It gives them more targets to blitz down.
Yeah,
so they don't.
And sometimes the AI is exceedingly stupid and will just attack the wrong person every single time.
Yep, and that's what you hope for, because occasionally, in my testing, they did blitz down SLKR right away, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
But I think he survived in all of them, but it got a little bit close. What really helps is when you kill a stunned enemy, SLKR recovers 100% health and protection.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, and
that
there's going
helps
to be
with
a lot of
survival.
stunned enemies. I mean, because
Although with the JMK team, it still takes like 3 minutes to kill one of them. But once you kill one of them, you just start taking bonus turns and you kill all of them.
and you've ramped up so much siphon on SLKR at that point that you're also just sucking away all of their mastery. You're taking away their max HP and protection and all that. So you're it does take a while to ramp up, and that's just the way SLKR works, though. It feels like you're losing until you all of a sudden have won, and that's
it feels sketchy until you're invincible, and then you just eventually one shot their entire team.
Have you gotten the First Order Stormtrooper Cron?
I have not. No, I got the Phasmacron.
I rolled it. I put it on defense with it seems like it's very plug and play viable. Like the top half of it does not get broken by not having First Order allies. The bottom half does. But I put it on defense with Hux, First Order TIE Pilot, and the Stormtrooper, hoping, my opponent would attack it, underestimate it, and I'd get a win. My opponent didn't even attack, of course.
Yeah, they didn't attack my Phasmacron.
I was really, honestly, salty. I'd rather get my ass beat by somebody than face somebody that does not play at all. That doesn't even do their 10 banners. It bothers me, but that's a thing for a whole nother day. But the First Order Stormtrooper Cron, he gets 100% max health and protection, and the allied leader gains 50% armor pen and offense. Whenever a stun expires or is dispelled from an enemy, Stormtrooper gains 10% defense and tenacity, and the ally in the leader slot gains 10% critical damage until the end of the encounter. That's the part that doesn't break. That's plug and play, and that's what I want to focus on here. Does that not sound tailor-made for something like gas? Where you just have this ramping, this gas he's getting 50% armor pen and offense. Gas hits really hard already. And every time a stun is dispelled or expired, now you'd have to figure out how you want to get some stuns going. Because there's only really Echoes AoE, and that's only on droids. You might have to plug a third character in that does stuns, but adding that extra crit damage, I don't know. I saw this and 1,000 possibilities flew through my head, and gas was one that just stuck. But I haven't had an opportunity to even test it, and I'm too risk averse to try in GAC in the first week. Do you think this is a Datacron that's even worth anything, though? It sounds really good.
I mean, I would want to try it with like Jedi Knight Luke.
Yeah, the AoE stun.
Yeah, because as soon as each one of those expires, bop, 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 bop. That's 5
that's
potentially.
50% crit damage for JKL.
That's 50% crit damage, and he hits hard.
Yeah, he does hit really hard. That's interesting. Jedi Knight Luke, that is not one I might have considered it briefly, but I didn't really put any thought into. And then, or you could do like a Jedi Knight Revan. There's some stuns on that team.
There's a lot of stuns just floating about.
Yeah. What about? I almost said Starkiller, but he would break Starkiller.
Yeah, but he could still work with like
EP Mara?
the EP Mara core, but I don't know if that's worth. But it could do something if you're already taking away Starkiller to deal with something else.
Yeah, and there's a million ways you can use Starkiller if you're using EP Mara.
Especially in the unaligned Force user team.
Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me I need to use Fear, SK, and Malicos. That's a really good team. But I put my Malicos on defense because it gets me holds all the time. People still don't really know how to deal with it, even in Kyber 2 and Kyber 1. Either they crush it for max banners, or they throw like 10 teams at it and can never beat it. So,
yeah, I think it's got a lot of interesting potential.
definitely.
It'd be interesting to try out. It also like it's not bad. Like if you roll it and you only roll 1/9 for your first order, it's not bad. It still gives significant boost to SLKR. Like that, you would still get the 50% armor penetration and offense, which is great. Plus, however much critical damage stacking you can get with all the stuns on that team, like you could, that would work pretty well. It's just not as good.
Yeah. As if you didn't have the mats to roll off of it, it's not the end of the world. If that was your only level 9, and you had the mats, I would definitely try and roll off of it. Try and get an SLKR Special Forces TIE pilot. But if for some reason that's what you wound up with, it's definitely not the end of the world. And I do think it would give some use or get some use on an SLKR team. Are there any other Datacrons in this set that you have shown any interest in aside from Padme, or that you might have?
I know there was like a Techcron that looks like somebody said it beat Leia, but I don't really have any of the other ones. Like I don't, my Inquisitors aren't built out enough. I don't have Gungans, so that's like
I'm too far away on Gungans for sure. The Tech one I rolled, but my Bad Batch team is all Relic 1. I don't have Lord Vader yet, so I haven't had an opportunity to use it.
Bump those guys up to Relic 3, man.
Yeah, but I'd have to take Tech to Relic 5.
You're swimming
in signal data. Bronze wiring and carbonite circuit boards are a whole nother story.
Well, they've got the packs out right now.
Yeah, I did buy. I bought one of those for 500 crystals, and I got 200 on my main, and I got 250 on my alt, which was actually really good. Both
that is how I get my carbonite. I don't farm it anymore because
I feel like it's the best value.
It is.
I try not to farm them, and I also try not to buy them, which means that like once a month on my main, I run out. On my alt, I'm always running out on them, but I do run out occasionally. So I rolled the Techcron. It looks good, but it's just good. It's a level 9 Datacron. Of course, it's gonna look good. Like they deal more max, or they deal damage equal to half their potency. Tech does when he uses an ability. I have no idea what my Tech's potency even is. Is that really gonna do all that much?
Well, generally people have Tech with a high potency because of his stun.
Yeah, you want to mod him for potency, but I think Bad Batch is a good team, but it's kind of a B tier team. It's the kind of team that in Kyber 1 and 2, a lot of people place a board to prevent people from using it. So the modding on them is less important than it is on other teams. So for me, like any potency he has is incidental. And I feel like I might not be typical, but I am probably representative of a pretty sizable chunk of players when it comes to something like that. Like this will get some use maybe, but otherwise meh. Luminara I didn't even look at. Oh, she gets revived with protection up.
I mean, the Gungan ones look good, but the Gungan team is already insane. So I'm like, whatever. They're just going to be
that's the newest
crazy no matter what.
That's the current thing is the Gungans. So of course they're going to be crazy. I haven't even bothered really to look at them because I will be getting Gungans relatively quickly, but not quickly enough to really get any use out of this Kron set. It's going to be one of those things that if I get a Gungan Kron, it'll be I'll get it and then I'll unlock Jar Jar with 2 weeks left on the Kron kind of thing. So it is what it is. The stats on the Krons though are really nice. What do you think about all these stats? I'm loving armor pen and offense and crit damage.
Yep, those are nice. And I mean, critical chance and accuracy kind of like the critical avoidance is nice. Like I don't roll for it, but I don't necessarily it's not the first thing I'm re-rolling.
I'm not rolling off of crit avoid unless I'm really trying to fine tune a roster or to a Datacron. I generally stay away from re-rolling stats.
Yeah, same. I just like if I get too many,
it's
like
a big investment.
If I get double accuracy, I just scrap the Datacron.
I do not scrap the Datacron, but it's kind of a min-maxing stats or resources reason. Unless you're at a max amount of Datacrons, then I will. If I have like the 30 or 29 out of 30, I'll scrap a Datacron. That, like, if I roll 2 accuracies on the first 2, I'll scrap it. If I'm at max. If I'm not, I'll just hold on to it for now, because you break it down and you get about half of what you put into it back. Mm-hmm. So those resources you get, when they get dusted, you get a quarter of the resources you got out of scrapping that cron. So you get an eighth of what you put into the cron initially. If you let it dust, you get a quarter of what you put into the cron initially. So you get a little bit more out of it. If you're maxed out on how many crons you got, then you scrap away. But if you're not maxed out with your 30 crons, you're getting just a tiny bit more resources in the dust if you let them sit until the dust.
I'm usually like just I need the extra little bit to get another cron. I've done that
too. Like
3, but
you need the 200k or whatever data cache, or the 10 or whatever Mark 1s to take the next one up. Yeah, I've definitely been there. And the level 3.
Oh, it's spectacular.
Oh my God.
And
it's horrible.
I either like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that right? I have 10 of the bulk crons.
Light side or dark side? Do you have a good mix of them? Because I've
got 6 dark side, 4 light side.
I'm probably pretty close to you. Why don't I just take a look? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dark side ones, and like 8 light side ones. And I'm in a position where I probably need 10 to 12 of each. And this is not enough. I need way more dark side ones, and it's really hurting. I'm rolling a lot of the crappy accuracy ones, or I don't even know. I look at it and my eyes roll into the back of my head because I know it's garbage.
I always I will do one reroll if I don't get
I do the exact same thing because I don't want to push up the cost of rerolling something else.
Yeah, I have not missed. Every time I've re-rolled, I've gotten a light side or dark side bulk.
I'm gonna do one right now. And it's got some crit damage on 1 and 2. Let's re-roll it. Oh, your good luck, my friend. Nice. I rolled off of one of the accuracy ones to a bulk one, which means I'm out of data cache. Do you this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and something that I wish I had started doing earlier. And you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Using your chart shop currency for Datacrons. I just recently, as in the last set, not this current set, but the one prior, started as soon as the new set comes out, just burning all of my chart shop currency on Datacrons, and it has been so helpful, and it's something I wish I had started doing way earlier. Is this something you've only recently started doing, or have you been doing this for a while?
It's something I do mainly just for the testing. I try not to use my chart shop currency too much on it because you get a really nice rhythm of getting
those purple pieces.
Yeah. And so, but it is very nice whenever a new set comes out and I'm like trying to rush one for testing, I will burn my chart shop currency because I mean it's not a bad deal, especially if you like run into a wealth of chart shop currency. like you just scrapped a bunch of shards or something, like, 500 for a million data cache is pretty
that's
good.
actually, the data cache is the best deal. The Mark 1s and Mark 3s are okay. It really bothers me that Mark 2s are not available with Shard Shop currency, but it is what it is. I wanted to ask, so you got that SF TIE Pilot Omicron basically day one. You released that video real friggin' quick.
Oh yeah, no, like day one, I was like, yep.
How much did that cost you?
All of my resources. Like at the Shard Shop currency, I think I burnt through like 15,000 Shard Shop currency. Yep.
So
it was, but this is like every time I put out one of those videos, I'm like, I have made a poor decision. Nobody do this because I'm doing this because I like testing them out.
Honestly,
and
though,
those videos do well. So I'm like, you know what? This is the sacrifice I make. This is going to be the sacrifice I make once every 3 months. I guess every 2 months, actually.
When you hit on that, though, it's really helpful. Like that, getting that Datacron day one, being able to test it and figure out, stress test it, figure out its limits, and also having one where most of your opponents probably won't. That's going to do you a lot of good in GAC over the next 4 months. So it was a big payment up front for something that you will eventually lose, but you might make 1,500 crystals off of it. Like
the win-loss, right? Because when you win or lose, I think it's like the difference between like 250 and 750 crystals or thereabouts, because I'm in Kyber 3. And
over the course of 4 months,
like mine just got me a hold, which got me 3 holds, which won me the Grand Arena, which meant I just netted 500 crystals today off of it.
If that happens to you once a week,
I'm not gonna say that it's like I'm not gonna try to argue that blitzing down in Datacron to level 9 day one is a good use of resources, because I still think it's not. But going after them fast, or at least saving up for them, can
being relatively aggressive about Datacrons.
Yes, especially first conquest go around. Like being on top of that will really, really help you, because people are slow, and there's some people who will wait until the last round of conquest to start farming their Datacrons, because they're just like, oh, I'll wait and see what's good and blah, blah, blah.
And there's a lot of players that just don't like conquest.
That too.
Or don't like Datacrons. And where you're sitting in the Kyber 3-4 range, right? You're not in Kyber 2 yet, are you?
No, I'm solidly in Kyber 3 at this point.
So where you're at in Kyber 3, because my main account was in Kyber 3 for basically up until 8 months ago, maybe. Nobody uses Datacrons. And if they do, they're subpar, or they use all their Datacrons on offense, or whatever. And you can, with a lesser roster, you can bully somebody with your Datacrons, and you, with the Datacrons that you got, are more than capable of bullying people with your Datacrons.
Oh yeah, I mean, you come into a front wall and you're like, oh, this guy's got like 3 GLs, ha ha ha, and then you look at my front wall and it's like Holocron and first Special Forces first TIE Pilot Kron with SLKR, and you're just like, well, frick. And look, this guy had Leia, JMK, JML, and SLKR. Honestly, I think he should have gotten through Holocron, but I don't know, like, because he didn't have any Datacrons, so I think he maybe just didn't know how to do it.
I feel like
he didn't have Bane.
Oh, he didn't have Bane at all?
Yeah. Although I've been able to make SLKR beat Holocrons. Even just vanilla SLKR.
Holocron is very good, but it is not unbeatable. There's a lot.
Correct.
Like, I've used JMK against it. Bane is the easiest for me, but sometimes you got to use your Bane elsewhere. But it feels like that last set of Datacrons is just slightly below what we have now, and I don't know if that's. They don't always feel like they're getting stronger. Sometimes they're kind of doing like a sine curve kind of deal. But this, I feel like we've had a slow ramping up power creep of Datacrons over the last 4 or 5 sets, maybe even since the Dodge meta, the those friggin' Dodgecrons that were just god awful.
Yeah, I think it's been, well, I think recently it's been more because they want people to engage with Datacrons and they want people to engage with relics.
Mhm.
That's why they bumped it down to Relic 3 being the minimum.
I'm very
And
happy
I think
with that.
that made a huge, an absolutely huge difference
Like
in people.
almost all of my teams can interact with Datacrons at that point.
Correct. Yeah. So that makes me want to interact with Datacrons. And that was like one of the reasons that I was like, okay, yeah, I'll start farming this set, because Relic 3 was a lot more accessible to me, especially with the Lightspeed bundles. Than
it makes the Datacrons more of a value proposition. Like, you actually get, even though they do go away, they are a temporary boost, and you're spending permanent resources generally for a temporary boost. They provide a good value for a good portion of the players, and I think that's where they failed initially with Datacrons, and they've gotten to a point where that is not an issue any longer. And maybe that's a function of both bringing the requirements down and upping the power level a little bit. And they, I don't know, they feel more accessible lately in general too. Like, maybe that's also a function of this conquest has been crazy easy. I don't know. We're recording this, what, 8 days, 9 days? No, 10 into Conquest. I red created Conquest like 5 days ago. I
haven't. I didn't like. I don't have. My Galactic Republic's not very built out yet, so I'm like,
you're probably to the point where like you're hitting your ceiling already though. Like, you probably done it a while ago, maxed out all the or whatever feats you can. You know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like really close on a lot of them now. I usually get down to this point where I'm like, all of a sudden I start hitting all of my feats, and like in the next day I expect to gain like another 30, 35 tickets just from feats.
Yeah, and so making the conquest a little bit easier allows for more engagement with the Datacrons as well. Like, I've been able to spend the last, on my main account, I typically get red crate on the last day or on the Sunday before the last day. So the second to last day. So these conquests have been especially easy, and it's given me, at this point we got 5 days of all of my energy has been going into farming Datacrons. And I've done something that I haven't done before, which was I stopped spending the 100 crystal refreshes after I finished Conquest before. Now I've been doing the 100 crystal refreshes into Datacrons, and it's been worth it. Like, Datacrons are not something I was super stoked about in the past, but I see an improvement from the extra 300 crystals a day I'm putting into Conquest. So they've made it valuable.
Yeah. So I think they made it more valuable. I don't think it's necessarily. This is. I want to finish off on this because we should wrap up.
Yeah, we're at an hour 13 right now.
But it's not unbalanced necessarily. Like I said earlier, your SLKR, if you engage with Datacrons and your opponent engages with Datacrons, your SLKR and JMK are just going to be used to beat each other.
Yeah. Or mirror each other.
But the only punishment is if you don't engage with it. Right? So they built it in a way where they're very powerful. You want to get them. They encourage you to get them. And if 2 players equally go after them and get a couple of the good ones, like, you don't even need like a whole decked out thing, but like just a couple of good ones, they will essentially cancel each other out. The only thing is they're going after those players like who just refuse to engage with it. They're trying to give them more of a carrot to go after, while using the stick of your opponents that did pay attention to Datacrons are now beating you with a stick in GAC while they're trying to give you the carrot. Like, hey,
it's organic though. This isn't like.
Yeah, it's not like
CG isn't wielding the stick. Your opponent's
I'm wielding the
stick.
stick. I'm wielding the stick. I just wielded the stick on my opponent last
exactly
round.
Same. And that's it doesn't feel it doesn't feel as exploitative when it's like that. When it's, well, my opponent just worked on an aspect of the game more than I did, and he beat me because of it. That's
Yep.
And you can choose not to like Datacrons, choose not to engage, and as long as you can accept that because I chose not to engage, I'm not going to win as often as I would, then that's fine. But I think everybody should engage, and there's a minimum level that you can engage with without going out of your way at all. You can get 1 or 2 level 9s, 3 or 4 level 6s.
It's 3. I mean, if you're focusing, like, if you don't care about conquest and like you don't give a crap about the conquest units, and you just go sectors 1 through 4 and then purely farm the stuff, you don't care about the feats, you just purely farm the Datacron stuff, you can get, like, I would say probably even like up to 5 level 9s plus
Possibly, yeah,
a ton of Datacrons, because if you don't care about the feats and you're not grinding the whole of sector 5 because you don't need to for Datacron materials really, and your guild participates in territory wars, so that's you'll get your rerolls. You can build up a very sizable Datacron folder, and it's at no like monetary expense to you, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
just part of it's an organic part of playing the game, and I think that's one of the big strengths of it, is that it feels like it's something you get from just playing. You know, if you engage with the game mode, you get the rewards, and if you don't care about min-maxing, you can actually kind of do a bunch, and still, you like you said, if you don't care and you just burn through Datacron mats instead of burning through Conquest, and you have 5 level 9s, even if they're not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, it's more than most of what your opponents will have, unless you're Kyber 1, basically.
Yep.
All right. Any closing thoughts? I think that's it. We long-winded as usual.
Definitely.
I choose to see that as a strength as opposed to a weakness.
It does take strong lungs to talk as much as we do.
So let's play us off. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for coming. Peace out.